Hey, good morning, goodness gracious. Hey, everybody, good evening. My name is Paul Servatka. I'm the president of the Chicago AMS, and it's good to welcome you here to 2020. Please forgive us for not having a lot of talks this last year. We just running out of ideas and getting people up here and tried to do it. Good news is we've got a great set of talks coming and planned for this coming term. So we're going to start today with Christine, and then on March 2nd, we are going to have Skip Talbot come up here and talk about hindsight is 2020, storm chaser safety in 2020. And he'll be talking about some of the big chaser events and injuries and accidents that have happened last year. And if you've never seen Skip Talbot talk, he's got some of the best videos. He and Hank Schema are the two best video presenters when it comes to severe weather videos. And he's going to be wonderful. Then later in April, we're going to have a special meeting. It's going to be at Lewis University. We're going to be doing an aviation panel discussion. So anybody who's interested in aviation meteorology and how observers and forecasters and dispatchers and pilots and everybody in the aviation industry who works with weather information, we're going to have a discussion on that. So we're going to be trying to get some of you guys to be part of this panel discussion, and I'll moderate that thing. We're also going to be at Lewis, and they've got a new MD-80. So we're going to be touring that MD-80 that, Mike, were you saying that American Airlines donated to them? So that'll be kind of a fun program. So we're excited about that. And then we're going to try to find a banquet speaker, hopefully sometime in May, but we'll see what we can do. Any announcements from the Treasury? How are we doing on membership? We're starting to trickle in? Woohoo! So if any professional Mets want to become a member of the Chicago AMS, it would be great to see some blood come into this and keep it alive. How many students do we have? Anybody from other than COD? We have a couple of northern people. Victor, good to see you, sir. Congratulations on the paper. That's really neat. Dr. Gensini, he used to be here at COD, now he's a professor at Northern Illinois, just got his certified consulting meteorologist license. So congratulations on that, that's a big deal. That means you can do a lot of stuff.
Not very well, but I can do it.
Any other general announcements, maybe, that we need to talk about before we start tonight's presentation? Any membership stuff? Okay. One thing, we do have storm chasing for COD. We have a couple of trips that are open. Trip 1 coming up at the end of April, and then storm chase trip number 4 in June are still available. 2 and 3 are already full. So if anyone's interested in going tornado chasing, please talk to me after the meeting. And that should be a fun thing to do. So as we go on tonight, this is Christine Wielgos, and Christine is a graduate of College of Dupage Meteorology. She started here in 1995. Then she transferred over to NIU, finished up there in 1999. After 1999, she went and worked at Fort Wayne. She worked with Midwest Weather doing observations for 9 months at the airport, and then took a job with the Paducah Weather Service in March of 2000. So she's been at Paducah for just about 20 years coming up now, so it's pretty exciting. She has been a journeyman forecaster. For those of you who have taken my 1115, Chrissy was the one who was working the Evansville tornado overnight as a brand new forecaster in a really amazing event. We kind of referred to that. I guess you're going to be talking about it, so I won't take your thunder away. But it's been really fun to see her continue in her career, and now she's officially the Assistant Weather Warning Coordination Meteorologist, the WCM. Those of you in 1119, you need to know this, WCM. And she'll be talking about what to do, and you can see the title up there. But I was asking her, what is the one thing that if you could go back to change your education would be important? And she says, I want more courses in communication. So when you look at meteorology, we've had enough for mapping and GIS and computers and math and physics, and now we need social sciences and communication. So if you're a person of many different talents, meteorology is great for you. So we're excited to hear Christine Wielgos. And I'm thankful for her to come up. So please welcome Christine Wielgos.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Welcome. I want to thank Paul for inviting me down. It's pretty amazing your career when you can come full circle. And if you would have told me 20 years ago that sitting in a seat such as yours or in a classroom, that you're going to come back here and talk to students and talk in front of your professor 20 years later, I would have thought you were crazy. Because I was a very shy, Paul will be able to tell you, I was very shy, very quiet. And when I first got in the Weather Service, communication and anything outreach, I wanted nothing to do with. And now, that's all I want to do. So it's amazing how your path in life can change based on the experiences that you're given. Again, my name is Wielgos. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Paducah, Kentucky. Just recently given the title Assistant Warning Coordination Meteorologist, and I'll explain what that means here in a little bit. But the title of my presentation is How the National Weather Service Builds Weather-Ready Nation Through Effective Communication and Partnerships. So I'm going to be explaining to you all the different ways that the Weather Service reaches those goals of trying to build that weather-ready nation. First things first, though, and I knew these pictures were going to come back and be useful in some capacity, but talk a little bit more about my journey. Starting out, obviously, the College of Dupage. I started in the fall of 1995, got my associate's degree in 2 years, and then spent the next 2 years at NIU. In the College of Dupage, obviously, I went storm chasing, and that's where I met my husband, soon-to-be husband, there. And I went on to Northern Illinois University and received my degree in meteorology in 1999. Went to Fort Wayne International Airport to take weather observations, had an amazing time there, an amazing boss who really helped me and pushed me to bid on 2 positions in the Weather Service. I bid on the Lincoln office and I bid on Paducah. And I was chosen in March of 2000 as an intern at the Paducah National Weather Service office, and I've been there ever since. And just this past fall, I was given designation of the Assistant Warning Coordination Meteorologist. So just some fun pictures there. Those are all pictures from storm chases back in the mid to late 90s there. Yes, that is Paul. And no, I'm not the blonde in that picture. I am the brunette. So just to show you how much I've changed. Look at that computer, that laptop, Paul. How old that is. It's crazy. Okay. All right, for those of you who are not familiar with the National Weather Service, you may not know who we are or what we do, but we are a federal agency, and we fall under the Department of Commerce. Under the Department of Commerce, there's an agency called NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the National Weather Service falls within the NOAA administration. The map that you see here in front of you are all the different Weather Service offices. Every Weather Service office has what we call a county warning area, or a CWA. And so all those areas you see on that map are all the different offices and their county warning areas. You guys are probably very familiar with the Chicago office because you're here. But I wanted to kind of zoom in on my office in Paducah and show you the counties that we serve. A much bigger county warning area. We serve 58 counties across portions of 4 different states in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and southwest Indiana. So that is our area. Those are the counties that we watch over and put forecasts out for, warnings, watches, and all of that. Okay? So what is Weather Ready Nation? Why did it become a thing? Well, Weather Ready Nation was basically devised back in 2011. I'm sure everybody in this room remembers the Joplin tornado, the tornadoes in Tuscaloosa, and we lost over 550 people in that 1 year alone. And that left a lot of scientists, meteorologists, and any other person in meteorology scratching our heads going, why did we lose so many people? There's got to be a reason why. And it really startled a lot of us. So one of the many things that the National Weather Service came up with is a program called Weather Ready Nation. And it's basically trying to ready communities against extreme weather events, hazardous weather events, climate events. And we need to really stress those impacts of those events so that people understand what they need to do to take action. Paul and I were just talking about this during dinner. What do we do to get people off their couches and get them into their basements when we're talking about tornado warnings? So the Weather Service went through trying to figure out what can we do to up the ante. And there's lots of other things that we've been working on. Transforming our operations to help Americans make better decisions. And we provide impact-based warnings, for example. We've got better satellite data now, dual pole radar, lots of other things that I can spend the next hour explaining to you, different ways that the Weather Service has improved things. And we will continue to improve things. That's what we do. So we're constantly working toward building that weather-ready nation, whatever it takes. And obviously it's something we can't do by ourselves. And so we rely on a collaborative effort between us and our stakeholders, our partners, to help us build that collaborative team. And so in the slides that follow, I'm going to be showing you all of the different ways that we as a Weather Service, either solely or through partnerships with our stakeholders and partners, have tried to build this weather-ready nation. So the cornerstone of the weather-ready nation is to obviously build enough information out there to build people to have more knowledge about weather. But having knowledge of weather is just one step. People need to have the ambition or the wants to be able to act on those decisions. There's a thing that we talk a lot about, and that's personal responsibility. How do we give people the information that they need, and enough of it, so that they can make better decisions? So what has the Weather Service done to meet this mission? As I talked about before, impact-based warnings, giving more information in the warnings themselves so that people can take action. More and more, you are going to be seeing things such as putting the onus on the spotters. When I issue a warning, if I have any information from spotters, law enforcement, or emergency managers, I'm going to be physically putting that into the warning so that people have that information to work with. Because Doppler radar indicated tornado warnings are not cutting it anymore. People need more information. IDSS, impact-based support services. This is where the Weather Service is headed, and that's why I mentioned to Paul how important communication is. You can no longer be a forecaster and sit in your little corner and put together forecasts and that be all you do. You have to be able to communicate your message, your scientific message, to an emergency manager who knows nothing about weather. How do you bridge that gap? So that is something we continually work on. Okay? We've gone through much training to be able to do that. I've taken about every FEMA course that there is known to man to be able to know how they work, how their hierarchy works, who I need to talk to, and how to speak in their language. What are they looking for? And so there's still so much more training to do so that we're better equipped to work with our partners and give them what they need. New satellite data. You guys are probably already using that new satellite data with all those wonderful channels, and we're able to see things that we weren't able to see. We're able to get more timely updates, which is incredibly important for things like DSS. Dual pole. Everybody in this room understands what dual pole is and what that's able to give us in not only the warning realm, but many other avenues. Increased use in social media. The Weather Service has definitely increased their presence on social media tenfold. And more people are following us every single day. And that's just more people that are getting our messages and are arming themselves with the knowledge to make better decisions. Research projects. Lots of different research projects, not on the local level, but at headquarters. Things that they're working on to meet that mission of a weather-ready nation. How can we better equip people out there to make those better decisions? Okay. Constant meteorology training. Those of you in here that are students, if you think that once you get to college that you're done, it never ends. Every quarter, we have training that has to be completed, and that continues for the rest of your career. Because in meteorology, there's always something new to learn. And so we're constantly on the cutting edge of trying to make sure that we know everything there is and that we stay abreast of the latest technology and the latest meteorology. So be ready to continue to learn even after you're through with college. Okay? And obviously, there's all kinds of different ways that we can integrate all this new information to our partners. And I'm going to show you a lot of the different ways that our office in Paducah is able to share information with not only the public, but our core partners such as emergency managers, law enforcement, superintendents, and the like. Okay? So every National Weather Service office has something called a warning coordination meteorologist. We are lucky to have Mike here from the Chicago office as a warning coordination meteorologist from the National Weather Service in Chicago. Now, every forecaster in an office plays a part in building that weather-ready nation. However, it is really the work of the WCM, the specialized work that they do, that really is crucial to the success of that program. Because their job is to go out and be a liaison to the public. So I wanted to kind of show you an example of what if you were bidding on a WCM job, what the list of duties would be. So you have an idea of what they do. They serve as a principal interface between the office and any user of their products and services. They lead efforts to ensure that the evaluation and adjustment of those products and services are known. Okay? They plan and coordinate and implement public awareness programs, and there's lots of different programs that we do to accomplish this, such as Storm Ready, and lots of different other things that we'll talk about. And not only all that, but they're still required to work shift work once in a while. 25% of the time, approximately, they're asked to fill in shift and actually do the forecast and fill in for the forecasters. But the other 75% of the time, they're out on the road making meetings, meeting with congressmen, meeting with emergency managers, radio stations, and the list goes on and on. Okay? And that is Rick Shanklin. He's our current warning coordination meteorologist at our office in Paducah. And like I mentioned before, he has assigned me as his assistant. You can imagine in 58 counties and 4 states, there's only so many places he can be. So when he's out someplace at one state, I may be in another state doing the same thing. So in a state and an area as large as ours, you sometimes need dual people to be able to get all the work done. So when I say users and partners, a lot of you may not know what exactly I mean by that. So in this grid up here in the upper right-hand corner, I've listed a number of our users and partners so that you're kind of familiar with who we consider our partners. Everything from television stations to emergency management to businesses, agriculture, hydrology. You guys can read the rest of them up there. But we work with all of these sectors and more to make sure that they understand what we have available to them, how they understand it, and all kinds of other services that we provide, and make sure that they understand what they can do with that information. How can they access it? What does it mean? And that we're here for them 24/7 if they have questions, concerns, feedbacks, comments, anything of the like. So how do we assist our partners? How do we make sure that they have the information that they need? Open and frequent communication is paramount. Again, it all goes back to communication. You may be the best forecaster out there and be the smartest forecaster, but if you can't relay your message to the grandma on the phone looking to go to the market that day, or the emergency manager who's got 10,000 people and wants to know when the chance of severe weather is going to be, that forecast means nothing. You have to be able to put it in layman's terms. You have to put it into terms that they understand, and you have to give them what they need so that they can make the decisions that they need to make. So that's why I say communication is huge. You've got to be able to figure out how to take your scientific knowledge and put it into a way that they understand. Okay? Relationships are huge. Okay? And this is why the WCM work is so important. Talking to somebody over the phone, talking to somebody over email is one thing. But going there and shaking their hand and seeing face to face the person you're dealing with is what fosters those relationships. Okay? Increasing weather awareness. Obviously, the information that we provide is going to make sure that they're aware of what's going on. And there's a number of different ways to do that. Okay? Willingness to listen to them. Do you know how many times we've missed tornado warnings and we've got to hear on the other end of the line, why did you miss that warning? I had no warning. You've got to be able to professionally deal with that and be able to explain to them what happened. They don't want to know, why you missed it. They want to know what you're going to be doing to better yourselves in the future. So all of those things are where you can make or break a relationship. If you say the wrong things, if you act the wrong way. So you have to be willing to listen to them and do whatever it takes to make sure that you're rectifying any problem that they have. Again, the WCM, Warning Coordination Meteorologist, is going to work and develop these relationships. That's what their job is to do. And they're always going to keep their users up to date. Ricky is hardly ever in the office, at my office. He's always gone doing something at some meeting, somewhere, almost every single day. It's very rare that he's actually in the office. Okay? And we're always trying to create new partnerships, strengthens ones that aren't so great. And so that's really where you build that weather-ready nation, is by building as many partnerships as you can, because it's kind of like a force multiplier. You give your message to someone, such as an emergency manager or a school superintendent, And they're going to take that message and spread it to somebody else, and so on and so forth. So your message gets spread very quickly, and that's what we want. The more partnerships we have, the further our message is going to go. The next several slides, I'm going to be going over some examples of how our office meets that need. How do we build those relationships? How do we increase awareness to not only the public, but all those sectors that I showed you in that grid, from our fire weather partners to hydrology and the whatnot. One-on-one meetings. It sounds simple, but when you've got 58 counties, you can't have one-on-one meetings with everybody. But sometimes it's essential to have meetings with your key partners. At least once a year, going out and visiting every one of your counties to say, hey, what's up? Do you know that these products are available to you? Do you have any questions? What can we help you with? Just recently, Ricky went and visited some congressmen up in Southern Illinois. So every day there's something new. Media is another one, another large partner. Okay? On these one-on-one meetings, you're trying to obtain the overall sense of their needs. Where are their vulnerabilities? What are they worried about? What are they concerned about? And listening to those needs. Answer the questions that they have. And again, illustrating to them what's available to them and how to use it. It's one thing to say, well, we've got this, this, and this, but if they don't know where to find it, or what it means, or how to interpret it, it's going to fall on deaf ears. So that's where that communication comes in yet again. You have to be able to explain things to them at their level, that they understand. Okay? And brainstorm together, whether you're dealing with an emergency manager or a member of the media. How can we work together to build that weather-ready nation? What can we do to up the ante? How can we decrease the number of casualties as a whole? Okay? Storm Ready program. A lot of you probably have heard of the Storm Ready program. And it's basically a list of criteria that a certain county or a college, anybody can be storm ready. There's storm ready supporters as well. They don't have as rigorous a criteria to meet. But in order to become storm ready, you've got to have a 24-hour warning point, you have a way to get the warnings, and the list goes on. And we go and we check to make sure that all these criteria are met. And that takes time. And then this was in Mount Vernon, Illinois, down south. I was speaking at the ceremony there. And now this county has been designated as storm ready. And they have plaques they put up in their town, and the people feel that they're better armed for severe weather. Because now they have everything they need, from communication to ways to get the information out, both during, before, and after the event. So, in essence, they're working toward increasing awareness and decreasing casualties. That's what it's all about. And I can't remember last time I checked how many storm-ready cities and locations and things, but there are hundreds across the country. And I believe it's CUD, storm-ready. So there's not many colleges that are storm-ready, but there are a few. So storm-ready entities, or when they get the designation that they are storm-ready, they're better prepared to save lives because they've got the communications, they got the notifications, they got everything that they need, and it should be fairly fail-safe, that they have everything they need to make sure that there's enough preparedness and planning ahead of time to warn people of hazardous weather, no matter what it is. Tornadoes, winter weather, flooding, it doesn't matter. And another really cool storm-ready ceremony that I was part of, you can see that picture on the right-hand side, it was at an amusement park in southwest Indiana. And I think they were one of the first amusement parks that actually became storm-ready. So that was a really neat thing to be part of. Okay? The spotter training program. Okay? How many of you guys in this room have taken a spotter training class before? Awesome. Okay. I have taught, last week was my 200th class that I have taught in spotter training. So this is something that I started very early on in my career, and I absolutely love getting out and seeing the eager people who want to help their communities. And while it's not perfect, you know, Mike will tell you in the back there, you always get a report that you're like, but they're trying, you know, and there's many events that we really needed their help. And the information that they did provide could have saved lives. And you just never know what piece of information they may have that is crucial to the warning you put out, or even an update to the warning that you put out. There was an EF4 tornado that crossed I-55 back in 2017, an event that I was working. And we put the warning out, and we knew this was going to be a large tornado, but the warning still went out initially as Doppler radar indicated, right? 10 minutes later, funnel cloud report, damage report, power flashes. They all started trickling in. So now that we had that confirmation, for sure, because this was at night, we were able to take that information from the spotters, put it back into the warning, ship the warning out for the counties downstream, and that saved lives on a monster, long-track, long-lived tornado. It was EF4 in strength. If it wasn't for those spotters, we wouldn't have had that information to be able to put back into the warnings and potentially save lives. So the spotters are helping to help build that weather ready nation by volunteering their time and providing those reports. Public talks. Again, I've done probably over 125 events, whether it's talking to a school, a civic group, going to county fairs, it doesn't matter. Wherever we're invited to speak or be part of, if we have the manpower to do it, we will do it. And these are great avenues to talk to kids. You can see all the different pictures there. Sometimes they want to talk about storms, sometimes they want to talk about careers, and it's just a great way to spread severe weather safety and awareness. And it gives me the opportunity to promote that. And anytime you get to do that, you're building a weather-ready nation because you're arming people with knowledge on how to be safe and trying to get them to think about preparedness strategies of what they're going to do the next time severe weather strikes. So it's a wonderful tool that we have to be able to do that. Partnerships with emergency management. I had the opportunity to go to Eastern Kentucky back last fall and teach a FEMA course in conjunction with the Weather Service office in Cincinnati. And again, this was just another way to build that weather-ready nation, build those partnerships, be available to teach this class for the folks that wanted to take that. And in this particular course that we taught was a 5 or 6 hour long course that was revolving around partnerships and allowing them to just establish ways to create these spotter networks and spotter groups. So that was really a neat thing to be part of as well. Conferences. I've been to probably a dozen NWA conferences where I've either presented posters like in the top right or had an oral presentation which allowed me to share my knowledge, share my research. And just recently, Mike, my buddy there from Chicago, and I and several other WCMs from surrounding offices were able to go to the IEMA conference and share knowledge as well. That allows us to not only share knowledge and share what's new in products and services, but it also allows us to be one-on-one with our partners. And it's amazing, even after the talk is done, you get so much more work done after the event when you're out just talking to somebody outside the doorway and networking that way. You learn a lot about your partners that way and get a lot of questions answered and take a lot of stuff back with you to the office to work on. So again, back in the fall, Mike Bardot from Chicago and WCMs from Lincoln, Davenport, St. Louis, we all tag teamed and got together in Springfield, Illinois to the IEMA conference and presented a number of different topics. And that allowed us to share information with a number of different partners at a really, really great event. And that was the course description. I won't read that to you, but that's basically what we talked about. Utilizing different ways for the emergency management community to obtain other information they maybe didn't know about. Lots of different topics that we talked about, and it was all in the vein of building that weather-ready nation. What can we bring to the table to help these entities do their job better and more efficiently? And that hopefully is going to save lives. Now, our office conducts workshops. We have one in the spring that's coming up next month, and we're delighted to have Dr. Zancini, who's going to be giving a presentation virtually for our office at that event. And in the fall, we do 4 different winter weather workshops. We do one for each state. In the spring, it's just a very busy time for us, so we don't have the capability to do 4, we just do 1. And I've taught at many of these and have facilitated many of these, and they're just a way to bring everybody together, and again, a way to share knowledge and a way to meet one-on-one with our partners, the people that we serve every single day, to be able to see them in person and talk to them, and they see us. Many people think, we're just in this government building in a, dimly lit room putting together our forecasts. And no, we're real people who are trying every day to do the best job that we can to serve our customers. And so workshops like this are just great opportunities to network, great opportunities to improve those relationships that I was talking about earlier. And so every workshop that we always have a number of people that show up to these, and they come from a long way. You saw the county warning area that we had. It's very large. And so these people are coming from an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours away just to be at our workshops. And so that tells you a lot about how much they value the information that they gain from them. This is just an example of an agenda from last year that I put together. You can see the different topics, just to give you an idea of the things that we talk about during these workshops. It's usually always something from the hydrologist, always something from the science and operations officer, and also topics from the WCM, okay, is normally what we work with. And then we try to get to some of the forecasters out to talk on different topics as well. For instance, the one next month, I've been trying to coerce one of our senior forecasters to talk about a tornado outbreak that happened in January where we had 12 tornadoes and no tornado watch. And we had several without warnings as well. So he's going to be looking at that and explaining to our users why this happened. They're all probably wondering this. Maybe some are afraid to ask, some have already asked. But again, bridging that gap of information. Okay, specialized outreach activities. Back about 10 years ago, I took the helm of a very large project called Customer Service Workshops. And it was basically a way where we got everybody together and they were given surveys, and they were supposed to rate all of our products. Are they useful? Are they not useful? What do you use them for? How can we better these products that we're giving to you? And so we ran these for every state. There I am talking about the different products, and they were very successful. One of the things that we did was we broke out the different sectors. All the aviators, the pilots were talking in one group. And then we split up the media, and we split up the emergency management agency. So we were able to kind of cornerstone their needs and really look at and hone in on what they need based on the different areas. So that was very good. We learned a lot. We were able to change a lot of things based on their feedback of what they needed. So it was really a great event. And it's about the time I just talked to Ricky just recently. I said, it's time for another customer service workshop. So another one may be in the offing here very soon. And here's just an example of the agenda of things we talked about, just to give you an idea of what was involved with this workshop. Ken-10. This is something special to us down south, and it's basically a collaboration between the Weather Service offices in Nashville, Louisville, and Paducah. And last year, we hosted it in the Paducah office in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. This year, it was down in Tennessee. But there on the upper right, you can see that was my topic last year, was surviving severe winter weather events. And it's just, again, another way, kind of like what you guys do here with the advanced spotter training presentation, although it's not all, some of it's all day, some of it's not. But it's a way to get the public involved, figuring out topics that will serve them best. So that's why I chose my topic. I looked at all of the winter-related deaths and try to categorize all those deaths and do research on those and try to find ways that we can mitigate wintertime fatalities. Okay, so here's, again, you probably can't read the print on that, but those of you who can, that was our agenda for last year when we had the event in our CWA. Other outreach events. Again, I've done more times than I can count, been asked to come to some kind of a fair or weather radio programming, you name it. If we're invited, we're there. And we have a really cool tornado machine that was built at our office. You can see that there in the lower right-hand corner that always draws the kids in. Sometimes people walk on by, but if you've got something that can pique their interest and you pull them in, you got an opportunity to share knowledge and build that awareness. And so there's just a couple of pictures of a few events that we've worked over the years, safety days, all kinds of different things. So that is an excellent way to raise awareness and build that weather-ready nation. One of the more, a very large event that we had to work, and normally to get Owly Skywarn there, It's like pulling teeth at headquarters to make sure that you can get him, because it costs a lot of money to ship it. You got to find somebody to sit inside that thing, which is not fun. So I had to pay off one of my forecasters. No, I'm kidding. Try to coerce some of the forecasters here to play Owly. But we had an event in Evansville, Indiana, where 3,000 to 4,000 kids were attending this hockey game, and they turned it into an education game day where they had different booths set up. You can see the booth down there in the bottom right-hand corner, where these kids were able to come up and talk to us. And we had a Vandegraaff machine. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner. And again, it just got kids interested and knowing who we are and what we did. And Owly was a big hit. All the kids loved them, and that was a really successful event in outreach. Okay? Media outreach. This is a huge topic. Being able to work with your media partners is a big deal. This was an event where we were able to, you can see my topic up there in the upper right-hand corner, but this was televised live on the internet for the public to see. And we worked in conjunction with our local ABC affiliate to raise awareness for severe weather. And it was a really easy way to get information out there to the public. And it was very successful, and we look for ways like this to participate with the media to not only get our information out there, but to build those relationships and partnerships. Another one is the Kentucky Education Television Network. This is in Bowling Green, I believe. And again, this is another partnership where they allowed us to come on TV for an hour, and all we talked about was severe weather. And people were able to call in to the radio, to the TV station, and ask questions for that whole hour. So again, opportunities like this are golden, allowing us to, again, build that partnership with the media and also get our information out there and get people's questions answered. There's a lot of nervous people out there when it comes to severe weather, a lot of people that don't act because they, number one, don't know what to do and are too afraid to do it. And just right now, I'm working on tornado fatalities. We've had 57 people in our CWA pass away from tornadoes in the last 25 years. And I'm trying to dig deep as I can to figure out what were the circumstances behind those deaths. Can we learn anything from the deaths of those people to mitigate things in the future? Yet another example here of where the media has come in and they have worked with us to get messages out. This was during Lightning Safety Awareness Week, where WPSD, our local NBC affiliate, came down and interviewed me on lightning awareness. And they did a whole bit, and it was put on Weather Nation on the internet. And again, it provided us an extra platform that we wouldn't normally have as the Weather Service to spread the knowledge on severe weather, especially in this case, lightning safety. Okay, damage surveys. This is another one. I've done probably 55 damage surveys in my career, and you always learn something. But you learn more when there's actually something to look at. Lots of damage surveys, you don't find anything worthwhile. But during these surveys, we're often followed around by the local TV, whether it's print media, radio media, or newspaper. And that also builds relationships. You know, you don't want them following you because they're dragging you behind, but you have to be cordial, you have to be professional, you have to give them what they need, and in turn, they are expressing that on TV. They're telling people what happened, and they're putting us in most of the time a pretty good light on these events. So that picture on the bottom right was just a couple weeks ago when I was out in southern Kentucky doing damage surveys, and I had a TV station out of Nashville who drove all the way up to western Kentucky to follow me around and do story on the tornadoes that occurred in southern Kentucky. So again, it's information that goes to the public, and they see what's happened with the tornadoes, and they see the damage that they cause. So that's a very good thing. Decision support services. This is another one that I talked about earlier about where the Weather Service is going. Those of you who are students, this is where the Weather Service is going. Impact-based decision support. How can we best serve our core partners? Can you take the information from your forecast and tell an emergency manager or law enforcement, state police? We work with federal, state, and local officials to help support whatever the event is, whether it's a concert in which 10,000 people may be affected by an incoming severe thunderstorm. And they can basically fill out a form, send it into our office, and then they'll say, hey, anytime there's lightning within 50 miles of our event, we want a phone call. And so we have to monitor all these events that are going on in our county warning area and keep track of them all. Most of the time they're remote, but once in a while, like the picture in the upper right-hand corner, they want somebody, one of our forecasters, to come down to their EOC to run operations out of their EOC. And that was at a huge fest in Evansville, Indiana, where we had to send one of our forecasters down there. So every time we do that, we're building that trust, we're building that relationship. And it allows them, because they don't want to worry about having to worry about weather. They want to be able to go, okay, Ryan from the Weather Service, I want a briefing at 8 o'clock. This is what I need to know. And you better be ready to give them that briefing, because they're not looking at any weather. They're relying on you as the sole expert for that forecast. And that's what decision support is all about. Okay, conference calls. This is something at our office that we've been doing for a long time, and it's really built the rapport with our users. And this is a picture of inside our operations area. You can see they're in the middle of a conference call when that picture was taken, and they're briefing hundreds of people on these calls on what's going to happen. And they have been deemed one of the most important services that we provide to our users. And again, this is one of those force multiplier things. You got 200 people on that phone call who are getting information directly from us. Those 200 people are going to take that information and spread it to all of their people, and so on and so forth. So that's where it becomes one of the greatest things as far as building that weather-ready nation, because that information just gets shared tenfold, and that's what we want. We want that information to be shared. Just recently, the other picture on the left-hand side, not only do we have conference calls for our core users, but we also have separate conference calls simply for our schools. So I have every school superintendent across the 58 county warning area. And if we think we have something like a major snowstorm or maybe a severe weather event in which the drive time for the buses in the morning or in the afternoon might be impacted, we'll make sure that we have a conference call with our school superintendents to let them know what's going on. And if anything changes, we'll let them know of that well. Okay? Open houses. We've had a very successful open house back about, maybe 5-6 years ago now. But again, we had about 700 people visit our office, and that was an amazing way to promote all kinds of things, from recognition of who we are, recognition of what we can provide. We gave them tours. We had all kinds of other things at the office for kids, all kinds of neat things. And that was a great way to really build the rapport with the public. And it was really a great event, very successful event. Office tours. We always do office tours, from the smallest of groups to the largest of groups. And from your little Girl Scouts, like the picture there on the bottom, to congressmen who come and visit sometimes and want to see what the office is like. Again, that's an opportunity to really explain what we do and spread awareness of what we do and build that weather-ready nation. Okay? Town hall meetings. These have become rather successful. We had one in each state. And basically we said, okay, just come to the town hall meeting. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions, to give us feedback, to provide comments. And we would stay there as long as we needed to make sure that every single person was served and that every concern that they had was dealt with. And these were very successful. And we started to do them for larger end events. We had an EF3 tornado go through a fairly large town in Mayfield, Kentucky, and we took that opportunity to have one of these town hall meetings right after that occurred, to really hear what the people of Mayfield and anywhere in that track, what they had to say about our services. How did we do? How can we do better? Did we provide the information that you needed? And get that feedback and work toward perfecting that work. Campaigns. Okay, most Weather Service offices run campaigns. I'm in charge of running the severe weather campaign this year. So every day for a week, we'll be sending out information to help people learn about severe weather, to be aware of, say, statistics. That graphic in the upper right-hand corner shows you the tornadoes in our county warning area. About 46% of the tornadoes, they all happen in April and May in our area. But what months do you think most of our deaths have occurred in? Anybody have any idea? Looking at that graph. What months would you guess were our two highest months for tornado deaths? February and November. Completely outside of when you have your highest number of tornadoes. Okay? Something people need to be aware of. And again, another one of those force multipliers. You see those tweets there on the bottom right-hand corner. The media and other core partners take that information and they spread it. Okay? They can reach a heck of a lot more people than we can because they have a lot more people following them. So if they take that opportunity to spread our information, that is a direct relationship and direct partnership that we cherish in order to get the word out. And that's what's so important. Integrated warning teams are also a very big part of working with those partnerships. And basically what integrated warning team is it brings together people, mainly our core partners, emergency managers, media, amateur radio, and we all work together to try to figure out how is the best way to communicate our message. And we basically have brainstorming sessions, and this is the agenda from one of our recent meetings. You can kind of see the different topics that we talked about. And we talk about ways after an event to increase awareness. Okay, maybe we had fatalities with a strong line of damaging winds. Well, let's brainstorm different ways. What happened? Really break down the event and figure out what happened with the event. And try to figure out how do we achieve that response that we're looking for. We're never going to get everybody to respond. That's a given. But we have to work on at least trying to turn the tables around and try to figure out the best way to reach people so people understand the severity of the event and, more importantly, that they act on that event. Okay? KWPC is another thing in our local area that we do. It's Kentucky Weather Preparedness Committee. And again, it works along the same lines of the IWT. But you've got membership that's composed of similar entities. But again, our job is to spread awareness. This picture that you see here was a Facebook Live session that we held during Winter Weather Awareness Week, where myself, Rick Shanklin, and we had a spotter there, and the other lady there is from WPSD. She was a local meteorologist. So you get entities from different parts of the weather enterprise, and we all work together to bring our take on weather preparedness. And it works very, very well. And this event, we were able to answer questions and bring up a lot of different good topics, again, to promote that awareness. Okay? LEPCs, again, the same type of things. Every county across our area is supposed to have an LEPC, where members of local government to get together, and they're not talking just about weather, though. They're talking about hazardous substances, and weather's just kind of an offshoot. But a lot of times we will attend these LEPC meetings. For instance, I went to one last year, and they were talking about this big marathon that they were planning in Paducah. And I raised my hand. I said, just so you're aware, we're really expecting very high heat indices on Saturday, the day you're having this marathon. And they're like, oh, we did not know, they weren't looking at the weather that far out. And I said, just so you're aware, this is what's going on. Here's the precaution you might want to take. Here's where to look for more information, and gave them everything they needed to know to make a better decision. Okay? And so those are the types of things and different ways that we can help them with their planning and the different events that they have. Sometimes we have commemoration events, and again, this brings people together. This brings awareness together. The pictures on the left-hand side were of the Owensboro tornado that occurred 20 years ago, EF3 tornado that went right through the heart of a major town in western Kentucky. And again, luckily we didn't have any deaths with that tornado. And then the pictures on the right were the 90th commemoration of the Tri-State tornado, which I'm sure everybody in this room is aware of, that hit down in southern Illinois, started in southeast Missouri. And again, it allowed me to give a speech on the keys to weather safety. Again, another platform to be able to share that knowledge, okay? And usually a lot of people will attend these commemoration events. I've done it for the Evansville tornado. Obviously these couple, and it really does bring people together and gives you a renewed sense of being prepared, being aware. If you can reach just a few people to get their head out of the sand and start paying attention to the weather, you're going to reduce those casualties. Postmortems. This is a huge one for our office. Nobody takes it harder when we miss a tornado than those forecasters that were working that desk. Nobody. And so we work very hard to go back after an event re-simulate it, look at the data again to see what was missed, okay? And these are very important. And it gives us an opportunity to not only apply what we learned, obviously you're going to get better if you know what went wrong. Some things go wrong, you can't figure that out. You can't figure out what happened. You miss a tornado, there's nothing on radar, the environment didn't support it. You know, some things happen you just don't understand. But some events can cause a monumental shift in the way that people think. And I bring you to the night of November 5th, 2005, the night of the Evansville tornado. This is the event that Paul was referring to when he introduced me. I was briefed by the day shift. I was the evening lead forecaster shift that day, not more than a year and a half as an official forecaster. I was briefed, you might have some wind damage. There was no tornado watch out, no severe thunderstorm watch out. And it started out with this very broad circulation, circled there in white, that was moving across southern Illinois, okay? And so when you have that mindset that you're not expecting tornadoes, you're looking for wind signatures, right? You're expecting wind damage reports. Again, we were in a slight risk, unidirectional wind profile, which still can get you tornadoes, but the way that it was set up, the shear was impressive enough for wind damage. So I issued the first warning after it moved across and moved into Kentucky and southwest Indiana. 72 knots of shear, but you're at 59 nautical miles away, so you're shooting way up there. But still, even at that distance, it was still considered a strong mesocyclone. So I issued the first warning at that time, at what, 1:32. Okay? This was the view from the Evansville radar. We call it the Evansville radar, but it's the radar that's located in southwest Indiana in a town called Owensville. It's kind of off the map further to the north here. But its view of the circulation at 0.5 degrees was 40 knots at 32 nautical miles. So not even a moderate meso. Okay? Next scan, still going strong on the Paducah radar. About the same on the Evansville's radar, 40 knots at 28 miles. Okay? So now as it moves into northwestern Henderson County, it gets a little bit stronger, so that the Evansville radar is actually picking up a strong meso at this time, 45 knots at 26 nautical miles. Okay? About this time is when the tornado was about to touch down in northwestern Henderson County. Now, when I first issued that initial warning, I will tell you that my initial thought was, I'm going to catch heck for this. I'm going to wake up 2 major towns at 2 o'clock in the morning. That was my confidence level. Okay? But I went ahead and did it anyway. At 1:46 a.m., I issued the warning for southern Vandenberg County, which is where Evansville is located. And I still had a strong meso, 50 knots. And the Evansville radar was even stronger at 54 knots at 2,000 feet off the ground. So it was getting stronger. Still no reports, still running blind. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to expect to get much. So as I continued to watch the radar, I was noticing and getting very worried about the town of Evansville, Indiana. So I updated at 1:52 a.m., and in bold and underlined, you can see what I wrote, that the city of Evansville was in the path of this possible tornado. Still had no reports, even though the tornado was already on the ground at this point. It was going over bottomland and only hit one house at that particular time that was uninhabited. So it had strong 72 knots off of the Paducah radar and 54 knots still on KWBX. Okay? At this point, at about 1:58 a.m., the tornado was ravaging the mobile home park on the south side of Evansville, in which 20 people lost their lives in the Eastbrook Mobile Home Park. And this tornado kept going for many more miles, and it ended up being an EF3 tornado that was on the ground for 41 miles, injured at least 200 people, and killed 25 people. This is a once-in-a-career type event, not something that a forecaster, being a year and a half in, probably should have had dealing with. Was on the ground for 43 minutes. There's only one known photograph of the tornado that was taken from a hospital, but otherwise we had no reports coming in real time, so I had nothing to go on other than radar because the environment really didn't suggest tornadoes. So that was an event that I will remember for the rest of my life, and that impacted me in more ways than I can count. So what was the result of that tornado? Well, number one, thankfully, I chose to put the warning out and wasn't afraid of the repercussions of issuing a warning at 2 o'clock in the morning. The Evansville area had the highest concentration of weather radios purchased in the entire nation. We had a weather radio event, and that picture is from that event. 3,000 to 4,000 people came to the mall to get a weather radio and or have one programmed. That's never happened. That's huge, okay? There was a little boy, unfortunately, that lost his life in the tornado. And his mother went through great lengths to have a law passed called CJ's Law that required everybody that lives in Indiana, that lives in a mobile home, to have a weather radio. And in 2007, she got her wish, and the law was passed, and everybody in Indiana that owns a mobile home has to have a weather radio. She tried to get it federally passed, but I think it got lost and it was not passed. A couple more things about the Evansville tornado. It increased the awareness of nighttime tornadoes for sure. For years after that event, we had a lot of scared, terrified people. And so we at the office are very cognizant whenever we have any threat of severe weather, and if there's anything that's going to be happening overnight, we make sure we're getting that information out before news time so that people have that information before they go to bed. An example of this is a graphic that I put out at about 11:45. And this was the precursor to the Harrisburg tornado that came and hit about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and killed 9 people. Again, another overnight tornado. So we need to do more to arm people with the information that they need to understand the hazards when it deals with overnight severe weather. And there's other things that happened. Vanderburgh County passed legislation to increase safety laws on mobile homes. TV stations were running campaigns for buying weather radios, to purchasing weather radios. So it really was had a huge impact, this one event, because of the number of deaths that we did have. So that's all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate your attendance and your patience with me, going a little bit over. And Paul, if there's any questions.
This is more of like a personal question, but where did your passion for meteorology come from?
Actually, when I was a little girl, my dad got me into meteorology. There was many summer nights that we spent on the front porch watching storms, and he just got me into weather. And I remember sitting in the counselor's office in high school, and they said the proverbial, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, I think I'm just going to become a secretary or something, because I was so unsure of my abilities, so unsure that I was going to pass through classes, math, science, that I put myself down below what I was thinking I was capable of. And my dad whipped his head around so fast, about spun off his head, and he's like, "What happened to meteorology?" And I said, "Dad, seriously? Did you see the curriculum? Did you see all the classes I had to take? Are you nuts? I'll never make it." He says, "Yes, you will, and Dad will help you." And I'm living proof today that I don't care what you decide to do with your life. If you put forth the effort, you will succeed, period. And that's my message for you, for all of you young people. I didn't think I'd be sitting here today talking to you, but I worked my butt off, and I did everything I could to take every opportunity I had to enlist all the help that I could to make it happen. So do what you want to do and work hard, because nothing comes easy, nothing. Lots of failures along the way, but you got to pick yourself back up and keep trying. If you want it bad enough, you'll get it.
I'd like to make a couple comments in what you said. First of all, there is something that comes easy, and that's failure. It's easy to fail. It's hard to succeed. Chrissy was a wonderful student. She worked really, really hard. And it's funny that you would tell that story. We just had somebody talk about minorities in STEM and females in STEM. And how do we get that? How do we get science and technology and engineering and mathematics, people who are not all of the same type? And they said that the number one thing are words of encouragement that come from a parent or a teacher. So the fact that your dad would say, "No, you can do this," is probably the best way to help succeed, especially in the underrepresented parts of our society. So I really hope that you take the words of Chrissy to heart. So that's really awesome. I do have a question, and maybe I could just bring this up to Mike too. Do you have any other things, Mike, these were some great ideas to reach out to the community. How do you reach out to the community? And Victor too.
Christine covered it very well. We try to do a lot of the similar things, and your resources are always the toughest part, and time, but the weather keeps us busy, oddly enough. But we do a lot of similar things. We've got a pretty extensive group of storm-ready communities, counties, universities, et cetera. We've got a lot of Weather Ready Nation ambassadors, the folks that really get their organization involved in all of the elements that Christine mentioned of spreading the word and being a force multiplier. We had an open house. It's been a few years. We periodically talk about another one. We'll get there eventually, I think. But we really rely on a lot of folks like you, students, and then our spotters, our media, and all of our partners to basically bring the word to the local level in their community, to their friends, their family, their neighbors. So a lot of similarities, and I think she did a very nice job of covering a lot of good things. So I've got some ideas too. So thank you.
2005, unbelievable story. But our issue continues to be weak frame housing stock in mobile homes. We've already had 6 fatalities this year, all in mobile homes, right? And it's early February. We need a paradigm shift for those folks that says weather radio is great, but staying in your mobile home is not. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to leave your mobile home, right? Yeah. We need to get them out at the watch stage or have different messaging for these people, especially the folks that don't have anchors. I mean, that's been clear that even, less than EF0 winds, 50, 60 mile per hour, just severe winds, you're going to be an injury, if not a fatality in these types of structures. And so I'm just wondering, the idea, if we're really truly going to start saving lives, we need to target those vulnerable communities that we know over 50, 60, 70% of our fatalities are occurring in those types of structures. And what we're going to do about it, especially in the overnight hours. I mean, that I think is going to continue to plague us as we go forward unless we really put our heads together and think about how we're going to address that problem.
Well, in my preliminary research that I've done with the 57 deaths, I've learned that there were at least a half a dozen of them that basically were told, hey, I have a house, come with me. There's a tornado coming, get out. They knew the warning was in effect. They had some place to go, but it's the human factor of it's not going to hit me. It's going to hit someplace else. There's a whole human factor that I didn't even talk about that plays a huge role in these deaths. There were so many people that I learned about that they knew it was coming. They even had someplace to go, but they didn't leave. Or they left too late.
That's recurring. I mean, you see people not want to leave their assets behind, right? I mean, that's very real, and especially at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And as there are a lot of new research that's coming out that's showing even community shelters don't help because in the Southeast, in the Mid-South, we have a lot of mobile homes that are very dispersed across the landscape. They're not actually like in Kansas and Illinois and Oklahoma where they're focused in parks. Mm-hmm. They're actually just spread across the landscape, creating targets,
right.
More targets for these sort of events. So I think we're going to continue to struggle with fatalities and injuries in mobile homes until we figure out how to better communicate with those particular vulnerable populations.
It's a work in progress.
Just to give Dr. Gensini a little bit more due than he's responding, the question of outreach campaigns or things that you can do. One of the most successful and interesting events that I've ever gone to was the weather balloon launch that we did several years ago, and I think that's one where you get young people, families, people that whole broad spectrum of people just have something tangible to do that's really very techy. It's really very great. So that's another one of those things that if you can tie an event to a weather balloon launch or include a weather balloon launch in some other event, that can be really effective.
I think a lot of what you've been talking about is getting awareness, but we talked a lot about how we have to learn to trust the Weather Service in more depth than we have been. And what's happening, and I started with my classes, I said, okay, what's the weather going to be at 5 o'clock tonight? And every single person pulls out their phone and sees a number. And so what's happening in our society is we are more attuned to information and have less ability to know what to do with this. We have no idea of the reliability of something on your phone. This last week, a very important document came out, and I guess you were saying that your weather service or your region has to have this reading on the duck boat incident, which happened in Arkansas a couple of years ago, where 17 people died. And evidently the conclusion was that the captain pulled out his cell phone and looked at radar and says, we can beat this storm. Disregarded the National Weather Service warning, but says we can beat it, and they didn't. And part of the thing is on the radar, the core of the storm was offset from the high winds by about 10 miles on the outflow boundary. And so very little amount of knowledge comes from using this. There's a ton of data, but failure to understand that data is what's causing some of these problems. So people are going to bed, or they're checking email, or they're checking their Twitter, or whatever, and there's no reliability, there's no understanding of the data. So it's very important to try to get that information and to the users, and the users to the public. Whether it's the media, which is less and less effective in communicating information because people don't watch TV for weather anymore. Right? I mean, the older generation still watches TV weather people, and everybody else goes on their phone. And there's not much talking. If I were to show you a warning on your phone, you probably see the warning, what it is, and where it's for, and that's it. And you don't read the entire crawl. You don't see the rest of the information. And so we are becoming, I think, in my opinion, a society where we do not pay attention to the full weight of these warnings that are coming out from the National Weather Service. So at least for my classes, I say, look, you got to pay attention. Let the experts have an idea of what to do, and then the experts have to be the ones to communicate more effectively. And I think your whole concept of partnerships and relationships so that people start to trust you more and more is really important.
Right.
All right, Christine, thank you so much for coming out and edifying us with that wonderful talk. Thank you so
for
much.
inviting me.